Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's stream. For once in my life, I'm streaming with the sun out, and it is traumatizing. I'm just kidding. All right, where are we starting today, folks? Ethereum is always a good start because it is relevant enough to make people watch, but it isn't so relevant that people will complain that they missed it because they didn't get here in time. So, Bitcoin. Ethereum's doing pretty good. Bitcoin chart. It has been mean reverting for quite some time. This is expected. Just here on the daily chart, there's something really interesting I want to show off to you guys. You'll notice that we have this mean reversion condition here. We bounce once to the upside, and that signals trend continuation. I actually tried to take a long here, expecting that second bounce, and it failed, so I stopped out. And we actually saved ourselves here on the CLCP. So price rockets back up, and mean reversion is still technically active for this entire move, which is wild. And it stops at the absolute last place it should stop, the 3.2 standard deviation. That's as high as it should go. And then we return back to mean reversion. So just because mean reversion is active doesn't mean you should enter. So you should try to short here, and you should try to short here. I'm also rendering right now. I have no idea how that's going to affect video quality, but too bad. %38. Wow. All right, let's do Bitcoin. That's good. Good tea. Okay. Nothing really for us here on the daily chart. Our chart is actively mean reverting, and not for the reasons that are immediately visible. Position I took was along right here off the 3.2 standard deviation, about 35.50, and I've been in since. So when you have a rather developed trend, your 3.2 standard deviation is going to be kind of a brick wall for price. So usually when your trend is just starting and you tag your 3.2 standard deviation, that outlier is the norm. Pretty good example right here. Okay, here we go. Yes. So trend starting with the clean expansion, you're already outside the 3.2 standard deviation. So it's not an outlier, it's the norm, because the norm is trending and the trend is an outlier of compression. That's actually a pretty intuitive statement, okay? When you are compressing, you define compression as the status quo. But during trend, when you rocket outside the 3.2 standard deviation, which should contain 99.8% of data, you have candle close, candle close, candle close, candle close, all outside that 3.2 standard deviation, right? Its textbook definition is an outlier, sure, but we don't care about that. It's not an outlier because it is the status quo of a trend to be outside of the norm. If your norm is compression, then the status quo is the outlier. But if trend develops, we have now defined the status quo as trend. And what is the outlier of this new status quo of trend? Well, then it becomes the 3.2 standard deviation, right? So if you have a developed trend, the 3.2 standard deviation is going to act more as a brick wall than after the initial expansion. So that's why I took this long right here, because this is a very developed trend. We dropped down and tagged that outlier value, and we have since trended up. And to further look in for that wonderful information, we are going to manually define the 90-period Bollinger Band, which is our longest overexpanded period. Awesome. So as soon as we entered this band, we knew mean reversion was going to be active, and we have since seen mean reversion, which is just very clean, very good to go. Now, let's talk about the bearish side of things. So after our longest overexpanded period sufficiently compress, well, in other words, it turns green, which is this here. All right, as soon as that lines up, our mean reversion condition is no longer active and it will no longer bind to price. I drink some more tea. It's so good. Yep. So, what's next? I don't know. You have to look at the lower time frame and figure it out. Here's a better look at our mean reversion condition on the lower time frame. Reactivate and mean revert. Beautiful. And also, if you're on a lower time frame where you have that expansion, where we have ourselves our compression and our expansion where we're turning outside the 3.2, a rather risky but reliable position. If you have the confluence like we did on the higher time frame, is once we re-enter that 3.2, several candle closes, that can be a pretty reliable long to tie into your higher time frame 3.2 standard deviation, right? Because we're defining this pivot right along the bounce, and as soon as that crosses over, you have confluence for the same direction. Okay, but do we have any signals that this is the end of the trend for the 4-hour chart to the downside? No, not really. All right, we have very clean and recognizable downward trend that has been active for such a long period of time that it is such a status quo that we can't define a pivot to the upside on the 4-hour chart. Do we actually have something on the daily? No, we don't. Here's why. We don't have anything on the daily because we have converse expansion. Let me explain. We've had an upward expansion here based on our 40 period, which we will manually define. Okay, we enter mean reversion here, this candle, and we successfully mean revert. And here's something rather interesting. If you have yourselves a bearish mean reversion, which has not well, no, it actually does compress fully. Yeah, so we do see some pivot along the barrier there, containment zone, but it's no longer acting as a container for price. And we immediately see downward expansion. Because our period look back is 100 candles, right? We have defined this uptrend as the norm. So if we immediately begin a downtrend after uptrending, we cannot define our longest overexpanded period because it doesn't exist. All that's happening is more, or rather the indicator sees more of the same, because this is the same level of volatility to the upside as it is to the downside, meaning that this downside volatility doesn't have a frame of reference of compression or normalcy to actually define the trend. So it makes defining the downward trend rather difficult. All right, this is where you get your questions in. I'm gonna pour some more tea. I'm drinking Single Estate Red Mountain Ai Lao from the Yunnan province in China. It is unreasonably high quality tea, which I have ordered wholesale directly from the Single Estate in China. Yep, just got to get it by the pound, and it's like $6 an ounce. Pretty reasonable. Some of their like if you go to like a retail store like Bed Bath and Beyond, it's a dark tea. Yeah, this is a black tea, but um, it's very, very light on the palate. There is essentially no tannins for its color, which is very rare for a black tea. Um, but it doesn't have the um, gunpowdery texture of, say, like an oolong. It's very smooth, and it is unreasonably buttery. Um, it's like a caramel texture on the tongue. It's very pleasant. So it's very easy to drink. Um, it's a good tea to start the morning. Now, I'm gonna go make myself another cup. You've inspired me. You know what? I'm gonna link you to the tea I like because you're being nice. Okay, we're gonna go to our white teas. I think it's like $13 an ounce, but it's the best tea I've ever had in my life. Silver Needle's good. I'm gonna search for it because I'm not immediately seeing it. Search. White bud. No, we only have the puer. Oh, there's more pages. Cool. Does it no longer exist? Has it also now? Oh, wait. Oh, that is tragic. Well, no matter. This is your opportunity to get questions in. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk about my life because it's been a minute. I'm pretty sure I linked the tea directly in another Discord channel. I'm trying to find it because it's worth it. Oh, I can actually search in the Discord channel. Tea. Found it. No, that's the puer. Is this the one? This is the one. It is sold out. That breaks my heart. How do you feel? FTM, Luna, Sand, Near, and 3L. So this is a spring tea, so keep your eye out in the next few months. It should be back. It's wild grown at high altitude in the mountains. And first thing in the spring, they go out and they pick the new green buds. And it's just that. And it's all done by hand, and they're all trekking up the side of a mountain to get it. It's fascinating. But it's very floral, and I kid you not, it tastes like Fruity Tooty jelly beans, which is bizarre. It's So good. Yeah, check back in the spring. It's a tea like you've never had in your life before. It's like it's almost watermelony. It's fascinating. It's very, very light, and you can brew it up to 5 times and it'll still keep its flavor. It's just so good. Okay, let's check out FTM. Wow, I'm interested. Holy shit. I should have just held this. Jesus, what is that? So I was trading it around here. How far do I have to zoom? Jesus, turn logarithmic on. That's a good return on investment. You know what? Let me get you another one that you can try right now, because I have tasted most of their catalog. What kind of tea do you prefer? I'll start there, and then I'll select something to your taste. Daily Trem, very consistent. Let's try the 8 hour, see if we can find that 8 hour mean version. Not quite. Let's try 6 hour. Okay, so this actually is visible. This mean version condition is very old and has expired. I'm curious if you can hear my computer. It's starting to go off like a jet engine because the frames I'm rendering are a little ridiculous. I get paid to make NFTs, but by God, I will never mint one myself. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Yeah, so this is completely expired, so we have to rely on the lower time frames. And essentially, what we're looking for is full compression down here. You design NFTs. Yep, they haven't been released yet. The company's going to do it all at once, but they're a gaming startup. They're making a card game. And I am doing that. Oh, you know what? If you want to see one of the things I've done, one of the frames from my animation is the thumbnail of this YouTube video. So how about that? Or on training you even. So when it's over, it'll pop up. Let's see if I can get an animation going. Visuals. You actually might not have permissions to view the server, so never mind. If you're interested, just join my Discord server, and I'm happy to link you to some of my art. So I'm actually not seeing an entry here on Phantom. The kind of thing we're looking for is this area here. Because whichever way CCI weights itself in that area, which is in this case bearish, it's a pretty good indicator for the rest of the trend. And since that little breakdown we have since trended down. If you do think I'm on Discord, I'll check. Yeah, pleasure, dude. You can find my Discord channel in my signature down below. Allow me to point to it. It's right there below me. Okay. Next up, we're going to look at Luna. I'm not really seeing anything on FTM as far as entry goes because it's a high time frame trade and we don't have implied direction. So check out Luna. That's quite the correction. Whew. You're picking some hard-going coins. Used to be near Teavana, but they closed up. Teavana was my introduction to tea, actually. It's where I got my first teapot. It is a good retail quality. I will say that. But it's not quite like buying it from a state yearly, because like Teavana, their supply chain just ends up. You get a lot of old tea, and you can taste it. Let's see, like jasmine, chamomile, and green teas. Have you ever tried silver? Well, I think we can do a silver needle green. Do you prefer more unprocessed, or let's do unprocessed because you probably haven't tried anything like it. Yeah, let's get you a Dragonwell because you also say you like the chamomile, and Dragonwell is very earthy. That should do you well. These are just some beautiful leaves. Yeah, last year's harvest. Very excited for this upcoming tea year. I never thought I'd say that. Yeah, but it's first flush, premium grade. So it's the first time they harvest the tea leaves for the year, which generally results in a stronger and sharper flavor. But because it's a Dragonwell, it's going to be a little bit softer. So it's going to be upfront, but tolerable. It's a little nutty, very grassy, kind of like chestnut. It's good tea. Okay. Daily chart is just so overexpanded. I don't know where to start. Because we've, again, defined the trend as the norm. 4 hour, though, I think we should generate. Yeah, this is good. This is really good. So because we have such a strong upward trend and we actually had this nice period of compression here, we actually defined a bearish expansion. So because of that, we actually have a bullish mean reversion pivot inside of a macro level bullish trend. So in other words, we can get a very high probability to trade here. We just have to wait for it. What we're looking for is this pivot here. Okay? As soon as we cross, and I'll just define it for you so you can type it in yourself, a 200 period Bollinger Band on the 1.25 standard deviation. Okay? Write that down. Or just plug it into your chart. On Luna, save it as a chart template. Okay? As soon as we cross this pivot to the upside, we should resume bullish trend on the macro level. That is such a good trade. Let's see if it happened over here as well. It did. Oh my God. Okay. So on the daily chart, right? We have ourselves our upward push, our compression, and then a bearish drop down. Here we have our upward push, compression, a bearish drop down. So over here, same scenario happens. We generate our mean reversion pivot. As soon as we cross inside, that is where bullish trend resumes. So on this chart, we have an example where it happens. Also, this is really cool. Complete compression, 14 period crosses up above the 0.7 value. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen this. This was actually bearishly weighted for that expansion. I would have shorted that if I had been there watching it live. But, well, maybe not in the face of the daily trend, but just as a standalone signal, that should be a short. But again, there was the bullish signal here as well as the daily trend. And I think you're safe to do the 108 out here as well. All right, let's get some more questions in. This is my dog. All right. That's a good girl. Let's do sand, shall we? Actually, same condition here. Had our compression, bearish impulse, bullish mean inversion activated here, so that's where you should have taken your long. If we retest that value about 92.40 within the next few days, that should be good long. Yeah, but thanks for pulling out the killer tricks, man. Actually, hold on here. Well, so I would say this has the potential to be bearishly mean inverting, but it is expired. All right, where we have that point. Seven value coming up here. So it should be fully compressed to resume trend pretty soon here. All right, I think that's going to be it, guys. Been a pleasure. Please, I encourage you to join my Discord channel. It is always good to get new people to talk, even if it's just about tea. Or you can ask me questions about charts, because I'll look at that as well. Okay, everyone, been a pleasure.